Welcome back to Sacred Success Salon, where this time we're talking to awakened leaders who are here to impact more people living on purpose and claiming their prosperity. I am your host, Kowalska, and today we have an amazing returning guest who I am excited to have this conversation with, Jessica Hadari. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you so much, Anna, for having me here. It's really such a pleasure to be with you and be with you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I love it. We had this conversation a year ago in the salon when the pandemic just broke out, and I love where we are going to go today, a year later, and given everything that has transformed. So let me just introduce you to the audience so they know who you are. You guys, you are in for such a treat. Jessica Hadari is a founder of Spiritual Women Leaders Networking Meetup Group. She is a feminine frequency global festival creator, Women of Color Wisdom series. You are just such a creator all over the place. And for over 10 years, she's been creating celebrated and really coveted networking events, helping women break through barriers. I'm making this up because I know that's who you are. Breaking through barriers and a paradigm in leadership, in creating success in their businesses while being spiritual women on a mission. So thank you for being here, Jessica. You guys read the rest of the bio below. So amazing to have you. It's right below. So amazing to have you here. And bless you. Blessings already. So right before I clicked the recording button, we had such a delicious conversation about this time we were in for a whole entire year, and then where we are right now and what the time is calling on us for. And I love that what's emerging, and I shared with you, what's emerging through the series is this understanding that we get to trust our own rhythm. And I think you are such a beautiful example of what it looks like to listen to your body and create success, but in a way that works for you.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just name, as we were going into the pandemic, I think for a lot of people, there was this like great hope in our shared communities that because at the time we were collectively being asked to like really slow down, that would almost like maybe rewire us culturally to just be more spacious and therefore present and therefore mindful. And then so it's interesting to now be in the like coming. Well, I think also a lot of us didn't realize like how busy the entirety of the pandemic would actually be just in terms of our own lives and creating and business. And but I think in coming back out, it's like I don't want to forget about those hopes that we were carrying, that we could kind of collectively move forward in a more mindful and spacious way, that to not go right back into the kind of almost like addictive patterns of like constantly being in action, and watching myself in that dance of, wanting to step out in a way that's like connected and spacious, and I'm tapped into my creativity, and I'm not just like out of habit, moving fast.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's so great because, so you guys, I will bring you into our conversation because I wish you were there with us. Starting to dive deeply into, there was this pause that happened for the world. But for us spiritual leaders, we were actually, and I'm sure you listening to some degree as well, there was this big calling, and we answered and we dove in and we served. And now the world is coming out of the pause. And we, right, as spiritual leaders, and just like those of you who are listening to us right now, it's like, what do we do now? Do we pick up the pace with the world is and keep like galloping, or do we let ourselves, right? Like I was talking about the pause after pause, right? Like finding the rhythm. And I love that you just brought that up, Jessica, because there was this hope at the beginning of the pandemic, right? Like something's happening. And right now with the pandemic being where it is, it's almost, it's almost over, not everywhere, but we are coming out, right? We are in a coming out process. Holding on to that hope, not even holding on to, but keeping that hope alive that something is changing, and how to be with that while also finding our own rhythm with it, right? So I love what you were just talking about, the dance of how do I, not necessarily keep up the pace, but continue to serve, but at the same time, be in my creative space, right? Can you talk more about that?
Well, I'll just say in my own life, when I have so there are times where either because of illness or having a small child or, the death of a loved one, or there are times where in my life, I am being asked, it is like no negotiation, asked to slow down, sometimes almost to nothing. And that is often really uncomfortable, oftentimes because it comes with some other life event that is inherently uncomfortable, like maybe like a dark night of the soul. But I find that in my own history, when I have allowed myself to move at that uncomfortably slow pace that the universe, that spirit, that life is asking of me, when I allow for that slowing down, what I end up like creating in that period, or cultivating everything from relationships to like writing, or like things that I birth in my business, are always so much deeper and so much more meaningful and profound than if I had just like pushed through and just been like, who cares, universe, I'm just going to go at my own pace. So that's one piece. But there's also, in regards to the pandemic, because it's like right now, we're literally just like easing out right now.
Yeah.
There's also, in my day-to-day business, working with clients, creating, etc., I actually tend to be a lot more productive. Like I get a lot more done if I actually take a lot of downtime. So having a child who's now grown, but when he was little, like having to have like really solid boundaries around my time, where I couldn't with a small child, like have a lifestyle where my work life was blurring with my family life, because I wanted to be present for him. So those boundaries on my time, where it's like you have to take evenings off, or you have to take weekends off, there's no like gray area. I noticed when I really stuck to that, where it's like I'm either in family time or I'm in work time or self-care time, I ended up feeling more productive when those boundaries around my downtime and family time were really, really solid. And in addition to that, there have been times where I've just inherently given myself a 3-day weekend, just perpetually just taking Fridays off. And when I actually do that, I'm so much more productive and like present with my clients and on purpose. Even though my work week is shorter, I actually get more done. During the pandemic, I opened up my Fridays because I'm like, I want to serve as many women as possible. And that was great as in like a short stint, right? For temporarily, it was okay to just be like, I have the energy. I feel on purpose. Like I'm here to serve. Just this last month, I've started to like close back down my Fridays, because I could feel that like way that almost making myself too available was creating an energetic stretch. Like I could feel the tiredness of that. It wasn't sustainable. So I just, sometimes the universe asks us to slow down. And I think we're always benefited by that when we do that. And sometimes we have to purposely put structures in place that kind of force us to be in our self-care or in our family time, or just not, kind of switch gears out of business brain. And how that also, at least for me, has really, really served my business. Because like, who wants to show up feeling burnt out and drained?
I think
Who wants that?
I know, right? And what's really great about that too is that most of the time, the spiritually awakened, the healers, right? Like the healers, the creatives, it's kind of in us, and I'll speak from myself, but I know that it's true for a lot of people. Like we feel like we just want to give and give and give, right? Like to no end. And we underestimate the fact that when we show up tired, the person on the other side somehow knows that. So it doesn't serve them, right? So I love that you just said that. You're right. Like who wants to show up tired, but who wants to be served by a tired person anyway?
Right.
Right?
Totally. Yeah. There's no, I think as women, there's like a historical tendency to like martyrdom, right?
Yes.
Like my
Yes.
mother was like this. She would like bend over backwards to not even please everybody. It's not quite the right way, but like bend over backwards to like do all the things, all the right things in the
Yeah.
right way, right?
Mm-hmm.
To do everything perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then would complain about it all the way, like as if this was being put on her.
Mm-hmm.
And like when when I visit her for the holidays and she's like running around the house like a chicken with her head cut off, trying to do this and do that and make everything beautiful and perfect and whatever. Like, I get that it's coming from love, but it's like, Mom, I just want to hang out with you. Like, I don't care if like all the cookies are perfect and
Yeah.
and so I think, yeah, as women, it's easy to fall into that martyrdom. Like, I'm going to drive myself into burnout and overwhelm, and almost like that being tied into a sense of self-worth
Ah.
or feeling of value to others, like feeling like others will value us
Mhm.
more. Where when I look at a woman who's like clearly bending over backwards to like in burnout and overwhelm, I'm not inspired by that. So I think there's this weird from the inside feeling like I'm gonna pull up myself by my bootstraps and I'm gonna be inspiring to the point of burnout. But to the onlooker, it's like,
It
yeah,
doesn't
it's like they
work.
sense that it's
Yeah.
not inspiring at all.
Yeah, this is so great because as you were sharing this, right before you said self-worth, literally what came in is the question of, great, let's go there. Because we're talking about claiming the prosperity. Like we're talking about, hey, we now the spiritually awakened business owners, conscious business owners, we have in my perspective, we have the obligation to move the prosperity into our hands so we can serve
Yes.
more in a way that it's intended, right?
Yes.
For the whole humanity.
Yes.
And I love where you just went, because this is a total reversal for a lot of people. And we already know this, but I feel like we are still in this. The more I serve, the more I give, then I'm worthy of the money that I'm receiving for the work that I'm doing, right? Which is so the opposite of what I hear you say, right? When I am rested, when I have space, that I'm creative, then I can come and share from this other place that I cannot when I'm tired. Right. And
Yes.
so one of the things that I preach it.
That's what I love about you.
Your frequency is your currency. So you get to own the energy that flows through you, right? Like own the energy, own the value of the energy that flows through you. Don't just give it away because you feel like the more you give, the more it's worth it. The quality of it is what holds the value, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I early on when I was first starting my business, or like let's say if like a few years into my business, I kind of reached the apex of I danced with some autoimmune illness, but I didn't really know what it was at the time. It was not diagnosed. And so it was just this like dancing with chronic illness and the mystery and then all of that taking a long time to untangle. But at the apex of it was just being like almost too tired to get out of bed, right? My body was just contending with so much. It was like almost like having a perpetual flu. And I remember, but I still felt very driven to create. And I remember just really taking on like, I love how you say that, like your frequency is your currency. My own way of saying that to myself at the time was like, if I want to create community, whether that's a women's circle or a program or networking gathering or whatever, then I have to, it really comes down to my transmission, right? And is what I'm transmitting as like almost like a beacon of light, like what is the quality of that transmission? And it comes down to even practical things like what I'm putting into my body. It's certainly what we're talking about in terms of self-care and rest, because people can feel that tiredness, they can feel that burnout. And so I feel very aligned with what you were just naming, like living a really clean lifestyle. Not that I don't have fun. Like Mother's Day was just, this last weekend. So it's like so wonderful to hang out with my sister and drink mimosas, but all in all, just living very cleanly, not necessarily because I'm like a wellness snob, but because the energy that I'm able to transmit and the clarity with which I'm able to see my clients and have access to my intuition in service of what they're paying me for, it just allows all of that to be really clean. And so it's like we think of our bodies as our temples. And so if that's true when we're creating our business, it's like, there's some like continuous like house cleaning and dusting and sweeping and clearing the cobwebs that is just has to be part of this wave of awakened women leaders, that it really does start with us and our energy. And then of course that's going to permeate everything that we create and everyone we touch. But I love how you said that our frequency is our currency. That's awesome. It's just such a concise way of saying that.
Yeah. I love that you said, this is where awakened women leaders, like this is where we get to go. So another thing that I'm hearing too is boundaries. So this is how it's showing up. This relationship of money and time, right? And a conversation about the worth of what you bring in relation to time as another layer of talking to the same topic, right? And when you were sharing about when you got when you weren't well and you started to look at things, what came in very powerfully, and I don't know if it's true or not, but this is just how it came in. I heard you say to yourself, I can only work 5 hours a week, right? And I'm making it up, but it's just came in like a black. This is all I can do because my body needs to rest.
Yes, yeah.
Right? What am I willing to create within the time, and how much am I willing to value it so I'm actually sustained, right? And taken care of.
Yes.
And serving in a way that people are benefiting. But where do I get to go with myself to own that I get to be taken care of, even if this is the only time, the only being quotations.
Yes. Yeah. I love the phrase that the last little piece of like, I get to be taken care of. That's huge. Because even like at that time, right, I'm like too sick to really work. It really was like maybe 5 hours a week. It was probably something very similar to that at that time. And because of that, I didn't also have the energy to be employed or have some other form of income. So there was a time where there really wasn't any money. And so it was this dance of that understanding of how important it was for me to deeply care for myself, regardless of whether I was bringing in income at the time, to like value the frequency, as you were saying, and to also notice a correlation that when I'm in that mindset of valuing the frequency and valuing that, and therefore valuing that time, there is a correlation. Like later, as my business became more and more prosperous, there's absolutely a correlation in my ease in terms of earning income and that. And when I am going into like push mode, or, that kind of like verging on burnout or feeling like stretched, that it's, like attracting clients feels harder, and therefore income, right?
Yes.
Attracting clients and therefore income is harder. I will admit, so we went into the pandemic, had all this energy, got to serve incredible women. It was really this last year has been a time of deep intimacy and connection. I was in women's circle almost every single day, which was it was lovely. And being in circle with women is where I want to be. And like that will continue because that's nourishing, that fills my cup. But in this last few months, as we've been starting to come out of the pandemic, I have definitely noticed that phenomenon that we're talking about right now, where on paper, my prosperity this last quarter was higher than last year. And that's always great. It's nice to have that like continuous growth each year, a little bit more, a little bit more. But it has felt harder because coming out of the pandemic, it's like I did kind of over the holidays reach that point of feeling like more tired and creating more from the fumes or more from the reserves, than like the overflowing cup. So in this moment, as we're talking, where it's like we know these truths and we know how these impact our lives and our businesses, I'm in this dance of like really like making the commitment of like, okay, we're going into spring and summer and really utilizing this next season to just like deeply be in my priestess practices, which are really just like deep self-care practices, to really be like creatively express, getting back to dance classes, even if they're virtual, like anything I can do to fill my cup. Because what it feels like to create from an abundantly full place also just is way more delicious for sure. It's like you don't have to seek for fulfillment. It's just innately there. That like fulfilled, like in a fulfillment as like a felt experience versus like something that to strive for.
That was so good what you just said, Jessica, because I mean, that's the conversation that we usually go into. It's like, what will fulfill me as far as like the work I do, right? Outside of me versus seeking as, how can I be fulfilled, right? And it could be by dancing, by having conversation in a circle, being in community with women, but it is internally, what will cause me to feel fulfilled, right? And then I can do my work. I love it. It's so great. I'm having like this whole aha right now. Because then I can approach my work from a place of already being fulfilled. And then I am not putting this pressure on my contribution as the thing that has to fulfill me. Right? Because this is where like a lot of people go into, well, what do I do? Like, what is the right thing for me to do? Right? Like, what is this business that I'm here to create? But that's because we're seeking, to me, it's because we're seeking that something right will fulfill us.
It ties into the conversation that I think women maybe in the last decade have been in around relationship, right? Where it used to be the paradigm was like, oh, you meet your partner and then you are fulfilled. Like that was maybe like our mother's generation. Like that was the mindset. And for us, it's really, I remember even like Oprah talking about it, like in the late 90s of like how you really have to like fill yourself, like self-love, fill yourself up first to then be like ready to partner or find the next person or whatever. So I never really equated the two, but yeah, it's very, very similar, like to have our magnet be on without of energy of striving, whether it comes to attracting in partnership or attracting opportunities or attracting prosperity through our service. I like this conversation of just like like what can you do to fulfill yourself that may have nothing to do with your work or your relationship, so that you can come from an already
being fulfilled,
transmitting and fulfilled place.
Yes. And then we can be in a relationship with, okay, so what is needed of me, right, in field right now? What am I being, what do my clients require that I can provide right now versus what can I give them so I can get back fulfillment?
Right.
Right.
It's a good reminder because all of my clients are women, and this is a great conversation to bring back to them of just asking, well, like, what are you doing to fill yourself up? Because it is easy to go into, it's like, I've heard it called like a hungry ghost energy.
Yes.
And so, how can you like feed the ghost? Nourishment.
Nourishment. And then I love where this is going. So you guys, I hope you are dancing with us in this conversation, because I can feel this in my body. Like, I love Jessica, that you are just like, let's just go wherever we go, let's play, and we never know where it's going to end up, and it's just gets into this delicious place, because even money is different from this place, right?
Yeah.
When I'm fulfilled, no matter what is happening around me, then I don't need to go grab, right?
Mm-hmm.
Feed the hungry ghost. I love it. I don't need to grab. I don't need anything from anybody. Yes, money comes through people, so people will pay me for what it is that I am here transmitting to them using your beautiful words. But I don't need it, because I am fulfilled in this moment, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, in our businesses, there is a way that, yes, we do, as women, as people, as, coaches, healers,
Mm-hmm.
mentors, on a practical level, there's a lot of, oftentimes shadow work that we have to do around like getting present with the numbers, right? Looking at the
Yes.
spreadsheets, looking at the bank accounts,
Mm-hmm.
the bookkeeping, like all the things that we sometimes want to be like, la, 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 la,
Yep.
So there is a practical, like spiritual growth
Mm-hmm.
of being present with the numbers, and a lot of value and power in that. It's a dance, like I think all women need to be in, around our financial empowerment, because our generation is the first generation of at least Western women that have had full control over our money,
Yeah.
in a way that even our mothers didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so in terms of being able to buy a house or get a loan or whatever without a male cosign,
Exactly.
right?
Yep.
And so we're in the birthing pains of learning how to be empowered with our finances.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other hand, so that's kind of the other side of the coin of also what we're talking about here, of not getting so mired down in like, I gotta make this money, I gotta meet the goal, I got numbers, like the rigidity of like, it has to look like this. And just trusting that if I'm in this fulfillment conversation, even if I don't necessarily hit that exact goal, like I'm not going to allow myself to be like transformed into like Golem because of that. Like my precious. So there's definitely an interesting like two sides of the coin, right? The wisdom side of being really present with the numbers, and the shadow side of either completely ignoring, or the shadow side of being so attached. I have watched women over the years become like money hungry, and that desire and motivation, especially if they're undercurrents of like, like legacy benefiting your children or your community or loved one, or like philanthropic undertones, right? Yeah. It's like, I think that all of that weaves together for a real sustainable desire to continue elevating in the financial conversation.
Yes.
And women elevating our prosperity. But I have watched some women just get like so focused. And there is an epidemic of women in the coaching industry and like chronic illness, adrenal burnout, adrenal fatigue. So, and when you go like that far into not just burnout, but like adrenal fatigue, oh man, it takes a long time to come back from that.
Yeah.
The fallout is even more serious things, conditions, et cetera. So yeah, it's just, I won't go as far to say like our lives literally depend on this conversation, but there are elements of beyond self-care, like literally our ability to show up in the world and sustainability, and like moving at a pace that is sustainable. Being present, but also being mindful. And I think there's also the final thing I'll say too is like maybe checking in with like, what is your guiding light? Like, what is your North Star? And if it's only the money, I don't know. That might work for some personality types. There has to be more to it than just the money. Otherwise, I don't know. I would love to actually hear what you have to say about that.
I'm totally on board with that, because I've had that. I had money for money's sake, right? And then I know that doesn't taste good. I mean, the whole conversation in the salon from the beginning, from when I first originated, the conversation was purpose and prosperity. They must go together, right? Must be a reason to why you're creating this prosperity, which is why I'm such a stan that, awakened leaders, conscious, spiritual leaders, mostly women, because that's who we talk to, but men too, really start owning their worth and value and start, drawing in everything they need and require, but not because they need it, but because it allows them to have the kind of care, right? To take time off, to have time to be creative, because they know that the funds are there, that they're taken care of, right? Like everything they need, like literally everything they need and require to be the best selves is available because of who they are.
Yeah.
They allow that in. So I am 100% in alignment with that. Yeah. Why are you even, because at some point, I mean, I know stories of people who had a ton of money and still worried about it, and right, or who had a ton of money and realized that what was all this for anyway, gave it all away and went into, live in the woods.
Right. Totally. Or even just the old thought of being on your deathbed.
Yeah.
And when you look back at your life, what is it that you would have wanted to create? And I don't think anyone's like, oh, I wish I worked longer hours and ignored my loved ones more.
Yeah.
I wish I was more stressed about money. Nobody wants that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's the conversation of what am I doing all that for, right?
Yes.
What will it do? What will it do in the world? What will it do for me? And I personally believe that we're raising frequency by allowing ourselves to receive more for what we put out, right? Yeah. We're raising frequency for everybody on the planet just by saying you get to value what flows through you.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. I feel like I had a half thought and I just lost it, but I was just your words were just kind of rippling through my mind.
Get it back.
Who knows what it was? Who even knows?
I love it.
But that was gorgeous. Value the frequency.
Yeah, I love it. So great. I feel like I'm having a cup of tea. I feel like, oh, sit down, Jessica. Let's have some tea and keep talking.
Exactly. Totally. Perfect.
It's such a delicious conversation. and just like everything, it comes to an end, right? For now, I know our time is coming to an end. So I know you have a gift, and I'm like, we're going to turn off the video just so you guys know, and we're going to wrap up in a beautiful bow everything we just shared, because there was so much. The conversation you allowed the space for and what you opened up, Jessica, is just so beautiful and so timely right now for where we are. And just recognizing that we are in this for it is a marathon. It doesn't end just because pandemic ended. So let's find this flow and this groove and this harmony in continuing to make an impact, but also doing it in a way that serves us. Yeah. So great.
Yeah, totally. Great. Nourish the healer, nourish the teacher.
Nourish the healer. Oh, love it. Is that taken?
I don't know. Use it.
You gotta get it first.
Grab it. Yeah.
Grab it. I love it. So there is a gift that you so generously are giving to our viewers, and you guys know it's the button below the video. What is the gift that they can expect?
Yeah, so it's so perfect with this conversation. Actually, it's not knowing exactly where we were gonna flow. I was like, oh, I hope that it's relevant, and it totally is. So this is my gift to you is my opulent woman self-care pleasure package. And the intention is it's in service of you expanding your capacity to attract, but to receive more while stressing less. There's some really great rituals and tools to help clear irritable thoughts and take consistent reins of your energy levels, and to learn how to use pleasure as a deep part of your self-care, but also as an antidote for stress. And there are also some rituals to kind of relax out of overwhelm. to expand your capacity to receive more, and you got to lean back and receive. I feel like that's the energy of what I want to inhabit as we move into summer, as we move into this next season, is just more leaning back to receive. So that's really what the gift is in service to.
And it is so perfect. So perfect. And like you said, I mean, I didn't check your gift before. I will now. But just so you guys know, the energy of the salon, it's just, I am always astounded where the conversation get to go. And you're just another perfect example, Jessica, of what is available here, right? And how deep the deep wisdom is so amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you for being such an amazing interviewer. I was telling Anna earlier before we started recording, I'm like, she's really one of the only salons/summits that I say yes to anymore, because I just love the way that you hold space and the way that you just allow for this natural unfolding that I think is just so rich and it's nourishing for me. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for playing. I love it. It's the best way to do it. So hopefully you guys feel nourished. I feel nourished. I feel fulfilled just by this conversation. So amazing. So thank you, Jessica. And you guys make sure you claim the gift, the opulent goddess. It's opulent goddess, right? Or is it the priestess?
It's opulent. Oh, I like that. Maybe I should change it. The opulent goddess self-care pleasure package. Even better. Thank you.
Claim it underneath this video. Get fulfilled before you go out into the world, because you'll go out with fulfilled and not needing anything, but receiving everything you need and require. So thank you, Jessica, and we'll see you guys at the next conversation. Bye for now. Mwah.